Hello. We are going to be making some very, very early 2026 NASCAR Cup Series chase predictions. Um, Later on, I might do this with the O'Reilly series or with the um, Truck series, but we're going to do this with the Cup series. So I have found a tier list that has all of the drivers. Um, we will only be doing the full-time drivers, so we will leave some of these behind. But basically, we will be going through my predictions for who can make the chase. Okay, so I'm not going to predict the exact 16 because obviously so much could happen. There's so many good contenders. But we're going to try to rank them in the probability or kind of the likeliness that they will make it into the chase. So we're going to kind of do some of that. We'll do this tier list style. Okay, here we go. So for our categories, let me explain these a little bit just so you know what we're looking at here. Um, but our first category is clear track ahead. Um, Basically, those are going to be the drivers that I feel are obvious contenders. Um, Basically, the only way that I feel like these drivers will not make the 2026 chase is if a injury happens, if they get injured and they have to miss a few races, or something happens to where they have to miss a few races, or they get fired for something, or um, anything like that. Something major and drastic will have to happen for these drivers to not make it. I think they have proven time and time again their consistency, their race wins, um, their legacies, whatever you want to call it, um, gets them into the chase almost every year. Um, Especially when this has to do with points, and no one's going to be knocked out because some 25th, 30th place guy manages to get a win. These are the actual fast 16. So that's kind of what category A is: clear track ahead. Think of this as being a grade A on an A through F scale. Our next section down, we have keeping it clean. Um, these are basically the drivers who will have to have a really, really bad season than what they're used to. Or maybe they've had some really good recent success in 2024 and 2025, and I think that they can continue that momentum. But if they take a step back, there is possibility of danger. I'm thinking of these drivers as between 1 and 16. Out of the 16 drivers, they probably most likely fall somewhere in the top 10. They may not be top 4, maybe not top 5, but somewhere between 6 through 10, maybe down into 11, 12. That's kind of what I'm thinking for the B range. They're keeping it clean all season long. They may get a few DNFs, but I'd say no more than 3, or else they may be uh, in a lower territory, 3 or 4. So they have to have a couple DNFs maybe, um, because maybe they're not getting as many wins, but they're the drivers who are usually hanging out in the top 10. Going back to that first group, the clear track ahead, those are the drivers who you're not surprised to see them in the top 5 almost every week. Okay, they have to have something go wrong for them to not even be top 5. Section 3, riding the bubble. It's exactly what it sounds like. If this were the playoff format, there's the bubble line where they're at risk of maybe not making it, but also maybe, like, they're the ones that we're going to be watching. Okay, in a chase format during the regular season, once they've kind of taken off and kind of spread out, you're not really looking at the drivers that are first, second, third, fourth. That they're pretty much locked in unless something happens. Where a lot of people are going to be watching are those drivers falling below 10th and above 20th, right? The ones that are between 10, 15, 16, If they have a couple bad races, they're going back down. The ones that are right there around 20th, they get a couple wins, a couple top fives, they can go up. Like that's where we're going to be watching. Okay. So being in this like C level group, the reason I didn't mark these A, B, C, D, F is they're not really C level drivers. I mean, some of them might be rated pretty high. They're just maybe they tend to get a few more DNFs. So they're riding around 15th through 20th, or maybe they have some really good tracks, but then some tracks where they're not great at, so they're kind of falling in the middle every now and then. So that's the riding the bubble. Okay. The first three sections I have on here, blue, green, yellow, however you want to think about it. Okay. Those are the drivers that I think have a chance. Okay. So there are going to probably be more than 16 drivers in those categories, right? Because I can't just pick 16. So these are all the ones I think actually stand a chance. So this is going to be a very big section, these three groups. Okay. Um, the last two groups that I'm about to talk about, these are the drivers I do not think really have any of a chance. Okay. So that's kind of how I want to divide this. The top three groups, they do have a chance. Those ones on the bubble, some of them might make it, some of them might not. Okay. Next group down is fighting dirty air, right? When you're in a race and you're fighting dirty air, that means you're having a hard time getting up to where you need to get, right? Maybe you got lost in the pack. Maybe you've fallen down there so hard you can't get back up. They may be drivers that have some very good races, two or three, maybe four good races, but maybe they're typically struggling. Um, they find themselves lap downs often. Maybe not too many lap downs, okay, but one or two. Um, they get stuck back there and they just can't get the points they need to, right? Or maybe they're getting points at the end of the race, but they're missing the stage points, or vice versa. Maybe they're getting the stage points and then something keeps happening and they're, not doing as well. Um, these also might be drivers that are either on a new team or they could be successful, could not, but based on recent results, we like have not seen them do well, but they could be surprises. But going into the season, I don't think they're going to make it. That's kind of what we put in that orange group. And then there's going to be a few drivers down in the red group, stuck in the infield. These are drivers who find themselves out of the race all the time, or they find themselves many laps down due to coming through pit road a lot, or they're just basically trailing behind the pack. Okay. Um, you could even call this category wait for me, right? They're always dragging behind everyone on the track. They're always having to catch up. Okay. They're the ones that I would say if they're down in that category, I really don't see any way they can make it unless they completely change how they've been before. Okay. You're not necessarily going to find people down in this group that are on a new team. Okay. Because that's not fair. If they're on a new team or they're a new driver, a rookie, something like that, they really can't be down in that group because they haven't proven one way or the other. You know, um, some of those might end up in the orange group where we're just kind of unsure. Um, but the reds, those are going to be proven drivers who have had recent struggles, or I just don't see it yet. Um, so, with that said, let's get into this. And looks like on this tier list, they are not in number order. I want to talk about these drivers in number order. So, we are going to kind of bounce around um, the list that is down here. Okay. So, we are going to start with Ross Chastain. Let me hold on. Okay, we are going to start with Ross Chastain in the number one for Trackhouse Racing. I think that Ross Chastain stands a pretty good chance. Um, I wouldn't say he's obvious. Um, the past couple seasons, he's kind of been right around between 10th, 15th or so. He could have a down season. So I think I'm going to put him in keeping it clean. It would take quite a bit for Ross Chastain to not make it. Um, he's proven that he can make the chase. I think out of the years that he's been on Trackhouse, he's only missed it once. Um, he typically is getting a race win. I know race wins don't matter, but they are earning a lot more points this year. So I think it's fair to say Ross Chastain is in the keeping it clean section. There's many drivers lower than him that are going to be fighting for it. Okay. Now, throughout the year, we may start to find him kind of at riding the bubble if he's struggling, but I want to give him the benefit of the doubt and stick Ross Chastain in the keeping it clean section. Austin Cindric in the 2 car for Penske Racing. Okay. Um, Austin Cindric is great at the plate races, so he's going to have a great start to his season. They're going to start with Daytona and they're going to go straight to Atlanta. We could see Austin Cindric take off right at the beginning. Um, but as we get going, he kind of was a road course guy, but he's not really showing that too much on the road courses. And then on the mile and a half, he's usually top 20, but he's not always at the top. So I think we're going to stick Austin Cindric in riding the bubble. Depends on how his season goes. He's kind of in the middle. He may sneak in there 14, 15, 16. Um, I believe for the regular season this year, he was fighting Ty Gibbs there with 2 or 3 races to go where they were 16th, 17th, 18th, kind of around where Kyle Busch was. Um, not talking playoffs, but just talking regular season. I know he made the playoffs with a win. So I think we're going to stick Austin Cindric there and riding the bubble. Austin Dillon in the 3 for Richard Childress Racing. This one, I think when he first started his career, he might have been around riding the bubble. He was typically making it in um, to the playoffs, sometimes even without a win, I believe. Um, but based on his recent performance, I think we have to put him in fighting dirty air. I don't really see him making it this year unless he pulls out some surprises, right? He may get that one random win he gets at Richmond every year, but even with that, it's not going to be enough points wise, I don't think, for him to go any higher than this. So I would say it's mostly fair to say Austin Dillon is not going to make the chase this year. Let's find Noah Gragson in the 4. All right, so Noah Gragson in the 4. As of right now, based on recent results that we have seen from Noah Gragson in the 4, so last year, but even looking back at 2024 in the 10 car, right? He was probably right around fighting dirty air when he was in the 10 car. He was decent. I think he was 25th in points, something like that. Um, but he was bottom 5 or 6 in points. Like he was below 30th last year in this car. And so based on that and knowing what potential he had coming from the O'Reilly series and that he has not proven that in Cup, I think we're going to stick him and stuck in the infield. I'm hoping for him that that's not the case. Um, I personally have never been much of a Noah Gragson fan, but on a human level, I do feel bad for him that he came from so much success in the O'Reilly series and has yet to show it here. So I do kind of want him to have some of those good moments. Um, so maybe he'll prove to us that when we come this time next year making some sort of list like this, that he may be higher than this. But I don't feel comfortable putting him anywhere other than stuck in the infield. The complete opposite can be said about our reigning Cup Series champion Kyle Larson, who I think everyone would agree goes straight up to clear track ahead, right? Dude leads all the laps. He was the regular series or season champion, or almost was the regular season champion. Sorry, he was in a battle to be the regular season champion last year. Um, Ultimately takes over in the championship race to win the championship and finished with the most points across all 36 races. So, yes, Kyle Larson straight to the top. Brad Keselowski in the 6 for RFK Racing. This one's a little interesting because I know he just had his leg injury and we don't know how that's going to go, but he does have plans to race every single race. If this was happening in the middle of last season, around summertime, I would put Brad K down here, maybe not even making it, or right here and right in the bubble, right where he could have made it. But based on his recent performance he had towards the end of the year, he's got this momentum going. I think we're going to stick Brad Keselowski in keeping it clean. At this point, especially since RFK as a whole, all three of them are improving and they have this momentum, I think we can put Brad K in the keeping it clean section. Okay. I think we should give him the benefit of the doubt. He looked pretty good recently. So this one could be debated for right in the bubble, but I'm going to stick him up in the second group. Okay. Daniel Suarez in the 7 for Spire Motorsports. This one's going to be pretty quick. We don't really know how this is going to go, right? He's coming from Trackhouse. He's moving to Spire. New team, new crew chief. I think we have to put him in Fighting Dirty Air. Okay. His is the exception where he may not actually fit in Fighting Dirty Air. That may not be what ends up happening. He could go all the way down to stuck in the infield if he has a terrible season, but he also could show us that he is capable of competing to maybe get into the top 16. He's done it before in the 99. I can't remember if he's won, or not won, if he has made it in without winning. But when he has won those 2 races, he made it in, but he's never too far off except for last year. He's typically right there around 20th, but he did take a step back last year. And now with this new team, I think it's pretty fair to put Daniel Suarez in Fighting Dirty Air. Kyle Busch. I don't think there's anywhere else that we can put Kyle Busch other than riding the bubble. I hate to do it, because of his legend status that he's got going on, but obviously not winning a race for over 2.5 years, going on 3, and at that only winning once that season. Yeah, I mean, that's all I can say. I mean, he's right around, like I mentioned, he was battling Centric and Gibbs and all of them right there for 15th, 16th last year for the regular season. And honestly, I believe Busch would have made it if some of those other guys hadn't won. So technically, he would have been in the playoffs, but he was kicked out since he didn't win. Um, he just cannot get a grip on this next gen car. That's what's happening. He just is finding himself spinning all the time, making mistakes. So I think we're going to put him on riding the bubble. There's a possibility, especially now that wins are not counted for. He may sneak in right at the end. Chase Elliott, Hendricks Motorsports, number 9. He's going to come right up here with his Hendricks Motorsports teammates. He has not been getting the wins as much recently. I know he won twice last year. He won once the year before that. But Chase Elliott knows how to keep it clean. So he's at least in the top 2 sections. He also knows how to not DNF, not get in wrecks. Okay. It's very rare that we see him. I mean, think about how last year, right? It almost was the entire regular season that he was finishing top 20. Like he had that top 20 streak going for a very long time. So I think Chase Elliott will easily find himself in the top 10, most likely. I would say maybe even top 5 or 6. Okay, the last of our first 10 drivers is Ty Dillon and the Colleague Racing number 10. I really thought that he would have potential in the Colleague car, joining AJ Allmendinger as a teammate. And based on what we saw, I don't think there's anywhere we can put him other than stuck in the infield. I really hate to do it. I am a Ty Dillon fan. And I do think it was hilarious that Ty took on Ty Gibbs in the $1 million challenge last year, and through a bunch of circumstances ended up making it to the final two. It would have been really funny to see him win. Um, but then you have him making silly mistakes like he did with William Byron, taking William Byron out of that race, and uh, so I just don't see anywhere that we can put Ty Dillon other than in the stuck in the infield section. Okay, moving on to our next 10 drivers. Right now, all categories are even. Denny Hamlin, considering that he was Larson's really only competition in that Phoenix race for the championship, and that we all thought that Hamlin was going to win that, and it was taken from him. And he's had some really good years. Um, the playoff format usually screwed him over, but the chase format, right? If we had a chase format every time, I don't know if he would have won a championship, but he would have made the chase every time, I believe. So I don't think there's any question that Denny Hamlin makes it unless something big were to happen. Okay. I'm going to say the same about our next driver, Ryan Blaney, and the Penske Ford, number 12. He's going to go right up there, right? He's a former champion. Of these four, Denny's the only one that's not. Um, and he very well could have been. So I think this is kind of where you're going to get the champ status. But I am looking at this and I'm seeing Keselowski and Busch below there, right? But they haven't won a championship for a while. They're on different teams than they were when they won their championship. So anyway, um, Blaney, right? He won the Phoenix race. He's literally the defending race winner um, at the end of last season. So I think if he can alleviate his DNFs that he had last year, I think he stands a pretty good chance to go very far. And I'm not even talking about stand a pretty good chance to get top 16. I think that's almost a given. He stands a pretty good chance to maybe even be contending top 3 or top 4 in points by the end of the regular season. Our next driver is AJ Allmendinger. We're skipping from 12 all the way to 16. Okay. AJ Allmendinger has formerly been called the road course ringer, but when we have people like Shane Van Gisbergen and Connor Zilisch and we get Austin Hill coming in there and sometimes, and you get people like Christopher Bell and Ryan Blaney and William Byron. Like they're all good. Chase Briscoe, they're all good at road courses. And so he's kind of been knocked down a bit. We haven't seen Allmendinger win for a while. He is improving, or at least has improved. Has This is kind of also the best team he's been on in a long time. I mean, he's been in Kaulig for a while, but he's full time. He's been with them consistently. So he is doing really well in the ovals too. I mean, when his last series, in the O'Reilly series, his last season he did in the O'Reilly series, um, he was in the final four competing for a championship. So I think we're going to put AJ Allmendinger in riding the bubble. He's kind of, is he going to be good? Is he not? He does have a lot of mechanical issues, or he wrecks out of races. When he is on it, he's running top 10, top 15, top 20 most of the time. So I think it's fair to put AJ Allmendinger right in the bubble. I would not be surprised if he sneaks into it. I also wouldn't be surprised if he finds himself battling for the top 20. That I don't have any question on if Allmendinger is going to be top 30, if that makes sense, right? These drivers that are down here, it's like they're going to be right around that like 26 to 36 group, you know? So yeah, Allmendinger's going to go right there. Then we have Chris Buescher in the 17 for RFK, right? RFK is improving. I think literally the past maybe 2 or 3 years, I would beg to differ, like probably 3, right? I would argue 3. Maybe you could argue just 2. Chris Buescher has been the top RFK driver, especially last year. Okay. Brad Kay kind of had an off season. And even though Buescher did not make the playoffs the past 2 seasons, he literally was the 17th driver, meaning the only reason he didn't make it was other people won. Okay. And he actually did win in 2024 after the playoffs started. So last season was one of his only winless seasons in the past few years. So I think Chris Buescher will make it, especially now that wins are not mattering. If you're going based on regular season, he is extremely consistent. I would be really surprised if Chris Buescher misses it. So we're going to put him in keeping it clean. Um, as for Chase Briscoe, this one is going to be tough. Okay. Um, I kind of had a certain number of drivers that I wanted to put in each section. I only wanted to put 6 drivers in the top section, and we went with like 8 and 12, kind of how I divided it, 6, 8, and 12. And I feel like although Chase Briscoe had a 3-race season last year, we hope, right? We can hope that he is going to keep that up. I really want him to keep that up. I am a huge Chase Briscoe fan. I loved seeing his success that he had last year, and I really think he could be a championship contender most years. I don't know if now that this is only a second year on this team, right? The other thing is those 4 drivers you see in that top category, they've been with their teams now for a long time. With this being only their second season, they had a great one, right? But you need to show consistency. You need to show that you can be there. So I think we have to put him in keeping it clean. He keeps it clean most of the time. He's got speed. I mean, he had all of those pole positions last year. We're going to stick Chase Briscoe in the second row, meaning I would be very shocked if he is not in the playoffs or the chase, sorry. Um, but I think there's a slightly bigger chance he could miss it if things go wrong versus these 4 above him. I hope that I'm wrong there. I hope that he can get to the point where he's in the clear track ahead and he's showing consistency, but we'll have to see after this season. Christopher Bell, on the other hand, he's now been with Gibbs for a while. He kind of, and this is going to sound surprising, he finished 5th last season. But I would say, and most would maybe argue, aside from his first like 5 or 6 races, Christopher Bell kind of had a down season. And that's saying something with how well he did. So if what he showed last year was a down season for him, I think we have to put him in clear track ahead. He had some unlucky moments last year that kind of got him pushed back a little bit. He missed the playoff, or he missed the final 4. Made the playoffs easily. I mean, he got those 3 wins at the beginning, right? For a while, he had the most wins, and then he was tied with the most wins until then he took off, right? So, um, yeah, Christopher Bell, I think he is. It's going to be a major travesty, and he's going to have something go majorly wrong if he misses the playoffs this year. Moving on to Josh Berry. Okay. Made the playoffs last year with a win, but would not have made it on points. Now, he did have, especially at the beginning of the playoffs. I know it didn't matter at that point with the points, but now looking at it's going to be a full season. Um, he had those 3 DNFs in a row, right? And aside from his win at Vegas and his very strong start, he started falling off again. So I think we have to put Josh Berry in riding the bubble. Okay, this is a Penske affiliated team. Okay, and the 21 car does seem to win at least once every couple years. So he could win. He's great at Vegas. He's great at the mile and a half. Okay, I saw him at Kansas Speedway. Okay, he started really, I think maybe dead last, if not near the end. Right, he had to get a replacement engine or something, and we saw him drive up into the top 10 multiple times. So those mile and a halves are great for him. Okay. And he's got good teammates there on the Penske side. So I don't think Barry suffered enough to put him in the bottom like 10 drivers on here, but he's definitely up in the air, if that makes sense. Joey Logano, 3-time champion. This move may be very surprising for you. I'm going to put Joey Logano in keeping it clean. Okay. He is a three-time champion. That is correct. But for the most part, his champion status and all his championships came because of the playoff format, right? He was able to play the playoff format the right way. Um, but I mean, he kind of had an off season last year, right? He got the win he needed, so he made it into the playoffs. Did make the round of eight, but was always kind of struggling. So yes, this is his even numbered year, right? But the format changed. I would not be surprised if Joey Logano is done winning championships. I know that's bold. He could have a year taking off, and this could just be my anti Joey Logano speaking. Um, but no matter how anti Joey I am, I cannot put him lower than the top two rows. I think he is someone who, no matter where it is in points, he usually will be top 16, right? He's going to find himself 10th, 8th, 7th sometimes, right? So Logano is in that second group. Bubba Wallace was a hard one to place. At first, I wanted to put him in right in the bubble. We never really know how he's going to do. But he took off last year. He really did. He took off last season. Okay. And even before that, he was starting to do better. I think he's got kind of this newfound confidence going on. And he was top 10, I believe, in the regular season, if not like right there in 11th. Like he was 8th, ninth, 10th, 11th, somewhere like that most of the time, even without that win. So I think we're going to put Bubba Wallace and keeping it clean. He would be one I'd be surprised if he doesn't make it or if he's not battling all year. Um, eh, in fact, he may get one or two wins. I mean, it's bold, right? And again, I am a Bubba fan. Um, so some bias coming in there, but I really tried to have bias not play in here. And I really had a specific number of drivers that I wanted to try to put in each group. So 6, 8, 12, 5, and 5 is kind of how I went with this. Um, and so I think I had him in writing the bubble, but then of the drivers I had there, when I had to move someone up, I moved him. So we'll have to see how he does. Okay. The final driver. So I'm spoiling this for you. The final driver going in clear track ahead is William Byron. Okay. He has made numerous now, two or three Final Four appearances. And even though he's not won a championship, both of his teammates that are up here with him have won championships. And William Byron, I believe, will do so, if not once, twice, maybe three. That might be bold, for once or twice at least, before he's done. William Byron just turned 28 years old. He will be in the sport for a while. Okay. We're looking at potentially still 2 more decades. Okay. Um, I'd be really shocked if Byron is not in there. And I might even be more shocked if he's not in there than like Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell. Okay. Because William Byron has multiple years now where he has been fighting for the regular season championship. And last year, for a while, would have been winning and leading the 36 race championship too. So there's no doubt that William Byron goes right here. Okay, our next driver, we're skipping all the way to the 34 of Todd Gilliland in Front Row Motorsports. Now, Front Row had an extremely off season last year. They are a bunch of young drivers. You got Gregson, you got Gilliland, you got Smith. They were hard to place. Okay. And I know that they were right there around 24th, 25th, 26th, sometimes 27th. And then Gregson was below 30th last season. I only have 26 drivers in the first three groups up here, and I feel like Front Row is extremely questionable. I like Zane Smith and I like Todd Gilliland, um, but I just don't know. They're not consistent. They haven't shown, like, they have their good moments. Don't get me wrong, right? Todd Gilliland on the drafting tracks, he does pretty well. Um, Zane Smith does pretty well on some short tracks and some mile and a halves, but they also get themselves into trouble. They find themselves even below the bubble. I just don't think either of them are quite ready. I hope they get to a point where they are. So I'm going to have to put Todd Gilliland in the fourth group, kind of the D tier group. I just don't know if this is his year. Again, we don't know for sure. They haven't done anything this year. But when we only have two driver changes, 34 drivers are staying the same, this is going to be a tough field to have a lot of fluctuations. So you really got to step it up. Todd Gilliland goes right here. We actually are going to skip a driver because I just was talking about Zane Smith and how similar he and Gilliland are. And actually, I would be more likely to put Zane Smith up in the Riding the Bubble group. I'm a Zane Smith fan, and so I kind of hope he is. I just don't feel confident enough to stick him there. So he's going to sit there right next to his teammate, Todd Gilliland. Now, we get to the 35 of Riley Herbst for 2311 Racing. I think we all knew where this was going. Yikes. Okay, because you'll see where his teammates end up, right? Bubba Wallace is already in the second group there. When Riley Herbst was given this position, I was a little surprised. Now, I don't mind Riley Herbst. I like him. I liked him in the O'Reilly series, and I thought he was pretty good down there. I did not think he was ready to move up to the Cup Series, and he definitely proved that that was true. Now, this is now his second season. He has a lot of room that he can improve. I mean, I believe he was 34th or 35th in points. I want to say it was 35th, right above Cody Ware. Um, he's got a lot of place to improve. He's got a bunch of positions he can play around with. Um, but stuck in the infield is where he's got to go. I don't see any other answer, right? These four drivers above him, Suarez, Gilliland, Smith, and Austin Dillon, they're a little bit more consistent and they had better seasons than he did. So, yeah, of the drivers we've talked about so far, Riley Herbst was the most obvious to put down there. Moving on to Cole Custer and the Haas factory team number 41. He came back to the Cup Series last year after winning the championship in 2023. Um, he did another season in the O'Reilly Series in 2024. He won the O'Reilly Championship in 2023, and he returned last season and did not look like an O'Reilly Series champion. When he was in Cup before in the 41, he won a race and he was a lot more consistent. He made the playoffs. He whatever. We got to put Cole Custer down at the bottom. I really hope that he improves. I hope, and I feel like there's a chance that this is not going to be true next year. Like, I feel like he can move up based on recent results. I think we have to put him down there. I don't think that he's going to make a big enough jump to automatically get into the playoffs just after, or the chase after just one season. Then we get the 42 and the 43 for Legacy Motor Club. John Hunter Nemechek, we'll start with him, the 42. He was hanging around 18th, 19th, 20th, kind of all the way down to 22nd, 23rd all season, right? So right there is around the bubble. Nemechek is only going into his third season in a row. I know he had a season in the 38. Hold on a second. He had a season in the 38 car, like in 2020 or 2019, something around there. Did not do well at all. And I would say that his 2024 season was kind of similar to that, but he definitely stepped it up last year. Um, And so I think there's potential. I think he can keep growing. His teammate was very similar to him last year, so I'm going to go ahead and stick Eric Jones in riding the bubble as well. I'm very curious to see how Legacy Motor Club goes. Tyler Reddick in the 45 definitely had an off season last year, right? But from where he ended up in ninth or 10th in points, to call that an off season definitely shows that he is always going to be a contender. So we're going to stick him right up here next to his teammate of Bubba Wallace. Okay, it's going to take a lot for Tyler Reddick to not make the chase. Cannot say the same about Ricky Stenhouse in the 47. There are some years where I would have put him up here. Okay, most playoff years, I probably would have him in right in the bubble just because he could win one of those drafting tracks. Now he doesn't even have that. If he wins one of those drafting tracks, that does not automatically get him in. And what we've seen from him recently on short tracks and mile and a halves, he has not really shown up. He has issues. He kind of runs in the back a few laps down sometimes. So I think we're going to put Ricky Stenhouse in this D tier Friday Dirty Air. I think there is a chance that sometime in the future, if this team kind of fixes themselves and shapes it up a bit, he could go back to the riding the bubble category. For now, I don't see that happening. Ricky Stenhouse is not, in my predictions, going to make the chase this year. Alex Bowman is going to come right up here to keeping it clean. He is consistent. He's not up there with his teammates, right? You see all three Hendrick teammates in clear track ahead. Alex Bowman does not fit there yet and maybe never will, but I don't have the Alex Bowman hate that some people do or the doubt in Alex Bowman that some people do. I know that he's a good driver. I saw him in his first couple years at Hendricks when he was getting wins. And I think he can get back to that point, right? He won in Chicago a couple seasons ago, did not win last year, but he made it into the playoffs. And he did fine all year. I would say fine, you know? And I think he's more than a riding the bubble. I think he has proven that he is consistently getting himself into the top 10, top 15 in points. I don't think he is a championship competitor, but he will definitely be a chase competitor. Moving to the 51 for Rick Ware Racing, Cody Ware. We all know where this is going. Other than Riley Herbst, this is the most obvious. Actually, I misspoke. This is the only driver other than Riley Herbst, like the lowest driver. I'm going to have to edit this. Cody Ware is the most obvious driver to be down here at the bottom. Okay. Riley Herbst would be next. Rick Ware is the most obvious driver to be at the bottom. Okay. He's like the laughing stock of NASCAR right now. I like seeing Cody Ware do great because it's fun to have someone new up there. Okay. But I know it's usually random. Okay. He's usually on some sort of random pitch strategy or he just has this random week where he does well, but that it's never going to actually finish like that. Now, I may eat my words and he's going to win one of these drafting tracks and whatever, but he was so far off pace last year. 36th out of 36 for almost the entire season, and many points down from Riley Herbst and Cole Custer and Noah Gregson. So yes, Cody Ware, bottom row there. We have finished our stuck in the infield drivers. There's 5, and we have finished our fighting dirty air drivers. There's 5. Okay. All of the remaining drivers, I think, have a chance to make it into the chase. Okay. We also have finished our first and second group, so all of the remaining drivers are going to go in riding the bubble. So we're going to talk through them, but I'm telling you exactly where they're going to go. think Ty Gibbs is going and right in the bubble. Okay, just like Kyle Busch and Austin Cindric, he was battling right around that 15th, 16th all year. Okay, but I do know that Ty Gibbs has the potential to go even further than that. He could win some of these road courses, right? He was running top five in a lot of races. He led a lot of laps last year, but he would have things go wrong. So, as much as I would like to put Ty Gibbs in the second group, he's not quite ready for it because he still has mistakes being made. I hope that maybe at some point he gets up to there, but we're going to keep him right in the bubble now. Ryan Preece is going to be right below in the group, right below Keselowski and Buescher, his teammates, right there and right in the bubble. I debated Ryan Preece for keeping it clean, but he did not make the playoffs last year either. None of them did because they didn't win and they were pointed out. But I think he's working his way up. He is working his way up. He was more consistent last year. Um, I would not be surprised to see Ryan Preece get a first career win this year and to kind of stay consistent and maybe work his way to where next year he might be in that second group. I would like it if he maybe becomes the face of RFK and kind of becomes that top dog, or at least is consistent with Chris Buescher. So we're going to keep Ryan Preece there in the third group, but I would not be surprised if he makes the chase, maybe by kind of sneaking in there at the end or running 13th, 14th, right? Maybe not top 10 quite yet, but I don't have any reason to put him in the bottom 10 drivers. Coming over to the 71 of Michael McDowell, I did think about putting him down here in the won't make it, but I am pretty certain that he beat Carson Hocevar last year. And I was kind of surprised. I think a lot of people were. I thought Carson Hocevar had a chance to maybe get a win to get into the playoffs, if not at least the top 20 in points. But he kind of went downhill. McDowell kind of stepped it up. Um, he's a veteran driver also. He's in good equipment. Spire's pretty good. In comparison to some other teams. I know obviously they're not a Gibbs, they're not a 2311, but you know what I mean. There's no reason that he shouldn't be in riding the bubble. I'm going to do the exact same for Carson Hocevar. Okay. He and Michael McDowell were very similar last year. One's a veteran, one is a young guy, but they had some similar stats last year. Um, Carson Hocevar is one of my favorite drivers, one of my top five drivers for sure. I love seeing him. I saw him win the truck race at Kansas Speedway, and that was awesome last year. I know he's controversial. I do understand the controversy. I know that he could be better. He's reckless, but also I liked Chastain in his early career, and Chastain did the same kind of things. And I'm a big Carson supporter. So yes, I'm biased towards him, but I don't think putting him in this third group is biased. There's no way he's a bottom 10 driver, right? If he shapes it up and does not get into the wrecks or make the silly mistakes that he's been making, he could easily, this might be bold, but I do truly believe he could easily be a top 10, top 12 contender most of the year. I also, just like with, oh gosh, should I say, Ryan Preece, and I'm going to throw Ty Gibbs in there too. Probably, maybe, could get his first career win, if not more than one, this season. We have two full-time drivers left. Okay. Before I get to them, let's just mention these other three. Um, Justin Allgaier in the 40. I believe he's only going to run the Daytona 500. Maybe more. I like Allgaier. I think the 40 is such a cool car. I think this is just Daytona 500. Jimmy J may do some more races than the 500. He is officially locked into the 500 already. And then Corey LaJoie is 99. Will make a few starts, but obviously none of those three drivers can make the chase, so we are not talking about them today. The only rookie in the Cup Series field this year is Connor Zilic, who was, in my opinion, and most people's opinion, robbed of an O'Reilly Series championship last year. Um, but put on a show. I mean, this dude had, what was it, 10 wins, 11 wins, 12 wins, something like that. Uh, Most I've ever seen in an Xfinity slash O'Reilly series in either a long time or ever. It may have happened before. I think maybe he tied the Greg Biffle record. I could be misspeaking there. Maybe that was Heim. I think that was Heim. I think Zilich broke the record. If not, Christopher Bell had it. But yeah, he made some moves last year, right? Uh, great, great season. Sorry. Um, I am not surprised that he got moved up. What I am surprised about is that he does not have a competitor in the Rookie of the Year because I thought Corey Heim easily had a ride. I thought maybe he would be picked up by 2311 if someone else sold a charter to them, or that there'd be some other team that wanted to make a replacement, or 2311 could get rid of Riley Herbst. I kind of see why they didn't. They want to give Riley Herbst at least a second year to kind of be on the hot seat. So I wouldn't be surprised if Riley Herbst has an off season next year. Corey Heim, I think, easily has a ride there. I love seeing the Corey Heim 67 in the field, especially the Robin Hood paint scheme. I saw it at Kansas. It was my favorite. I'm not even gonna say one of it was my favorite paint scheme of the season by a long shot. That and I just think it's funny the Carson Hocevar Chili's car because he always wears the get up and whatever. But we're derailing here. So Connor Zilic, only rookie in the field, so he's obviously going to win Rookie of the Year. But even if there were others, I think he would still have a big chance to win that. Although he is uncertain because he is a rookie, and so kind of the Daniel Suarez situation, I think Zilic has already done enough in the O'Reilly series. And this may be bold, but we also know he's a road course ace. Okay. It may not be super high in the chase, and he may not make it super far after that, but I think he stands a huge chance to make the chase this year. 15th, 16th, 14th, something like that. It could happen. It could happen. And if it doesn't, right, there are going to be 26 drivers in these three groups. So obviously, if he doesn't, I would be 90% confident Connor Zilic is at least top 25 in points, right? I think for a rookie, it is going to be considered a good year for him to at least be 24th, let's say, right? Top 20, top 24 will be the goal for him, especially with the track record he has so far. Lastly, Shane Van Gisbergen's 97 for Trackhouse is going to go in riding the bubble, and I kind of wish that it didn't make this extra row, but whatever. Okay, he's going to go in the 97, just like Zilic. He is a road course guy, and he's going to be Zilic's biggest competition. Actually, I might even say Zilic is going to be his biggest competition because Van Gisbergen won almost every road course that happened last year. I think the only one that he lost was Coda when Christopher Bell won. So um, he has been undefeated on road courses in the Cup Series for the last 5, I believe it was. So yeah, I know wins don't matter, but there's only one road course happening in the playoffs, so 4 or 5 wins in the regular season could get him right where he needs to be. And with his prowess that he's had, well, okay, prowess is too bold. I'm kind of being way too optimistic there, but with the improvement that he's made on his mile and a half, I don't see how Shane Van Gisbergen doesn't at least have a chance. I mean, he's probably going to at least be top 25. I'll say that. He could be competing. So, there you have it. All 36 full-time NASCAR Cup Series drivers in the 2026 season, and where I feel their chances are to make the chase. Now, this is a way too early prediction. I do understand that. We may do one of these a couple months in, after they've done 8 to 10 races, kind of see what we feel, um, see if this has updated. I want to see the community rank. And now I know that this is people talking about their favorite drivers or their how they like the drivers. So let's just look. Sorry for the language here, but I guess they're not fans of Allgaier and Johnson. Or what I could see happening is they're putting the non full-time drivers down there. Okay, so very similar to what we have. Okay, background racers: Noah Gregson, Cody Ware, Ty Dillon, Riley Herbst. Okay, that's what we had. Like, dislike depends on the mood. If we view this kind of how I had with how they are as drivers, Austin Dillon, Stenhouse, and Custer for sure are down here. Suarez and Nemechek in the category, that kind of makes sense. Got Jones, Cindric, Allmendinger, both front row guys. Michael McDowell, Carson Hocevar, Barry, Gibbs, Bush. Yeah, they're all their C tier. Connor Zilic, Ryan Preece, Logano, Keselowski, they're kind of B tier. I think Logano, right, probably would be A tier, but there are enough haters of him, including myself, that he's down here, right? But this looks very similar, right? Briscoe, Buescher, Chastain, Bowman, Reddick, Wallace. Okay, they're all down here in this group. Now, we got Van Gisbergen up here pretty high, but I know a lot of people just like him in general. And then the six ahead at the top, well, there's the four right there. And then Byron and Elliott are bumped down. So this looks very similar. This was based on, I think, how people think they are as drivers. So this does kind of line up with how we feel their chances are. So that was kind of interesting to look at as well. And I want to thank you for watching. Thank you.